What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA Show, powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler. Legs, I'm excited for this one, man. We get away from games a little bit today, but I got some big questions and some big proclamations for you. You ready for these?
I'm ready. I can't wait. When you start throwing big out there, like I'm really anxious to see where you're going to go with somebody. And by the way, if you say anything, outrageous to me, I will absolutely hold you accountable the entire season. So just so you know.
Oh man,
so I won't let you forget it. So and by the way, we'll do another show maybe a month from now or so, and I'll have my own list of proclamations and questions. I'll have my own list of those. We'll do another show where I'm the one put under the spotlight.
Done deal for sure. I have, by the way, I sent you most of these, but I do have one proclamation I'm excited to get to later on in the show that I'm very curious. You're either going to love it or hate it. There's no in between. And so I'm very curious. I don't know which way you're going to break on it. But yes, I have 5 proclamations. We're a quarter of the way through the season, Legs. And so I have 5 things that I think I'm ready to say these things will happen this year. And basically predictions. And then we're going to start with 5 big questions. But before we get to that, I do want to kind of just talk quickly about what happened in the league last night. The Wizards beat the Hawks 132-113, which is a shock. The 2-15 Wizards, now 2-15 Wizards got a big win, kind of a blowout win over the Hawks. I feel like the Hawks had been running hot and playing really well, so I'm not too surprised that they tripped up here. But CJ McCollum, 46 points in the game. Any quick thoughts? I know we didn't watch this one, but just it's a bit of a surprise to see the Hawks drop this game.
Very. I mean, at this point, this is what happens when teams start the way the Wizards have. Now, all of a sudden, you believe it or not, this is the way it works in the NBA. Now you get like an enhanced effort most nights as well, because you don't want to be a team that drops a game to them. Right, this team is reeling. Obviously, they can score a little bit, Washington, but defensively they're a problem. And so you're typically now, you're getting teams, and even teams now that'll fight back if they do fall down early because they weren't ready to play. They'll dig themselves out. Detroit did it against Washington just like a couple weeks ago in a game they had no business winning, but they decided at some point, we can't lose to them. And so for Atlanta to lose by 19 points to the Wizards on the road, yes, I think that's a team that probably wasn't in the right mental frame of mind that you need to be when you play a team like this. And so Washington gets their second win of the year.
The Orlando Magic beat the 76ers last night, 144-103. And this game, the Magic scored 51 points in the second quarter, 35 in the first and third. So they were scoring with ease against Orlando. But here's my take I have for you on the Orlando Magic. And despite popular opinion, I actually like the Orlando Magic. They have a lot of my guys on the team.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Here's my take on them. I think their bellwether for success is oftentimes, more often than you would think, Anthony Black. Because he's a good player, but he's inconsistent, especially his scoring. Like, he's a good defensive player. I like a lot of the stuff that he does. But there are a lot of nights where he just can't make a shot, and he's a liability to you on offense. Last night, he gets 31 points, goes 4 of 6 from 3, was a plus 31 in the game, and they win by 40 points. And I've just watched enough games. If Anthony Black is good, if he is making his shots and he is scoring for them, the Magic win. I think he is their big X factor because he's not quite a good player. He's not a bad player. He goes back and forth between the two.
James, are you seeing what's going on here? So not only does Adam, is he able to soften his stance on the Orlando Magic when he came at
my team.
Wait a second. You came at them really hard early in the year when I already said I predicted them to be top 4 in the Eastern Conference. And I haven't really wavered on that despite their early struggles. I kept saying, just wait, just give them time. They've won 7 out of 9. They're playing a lot better. So not only did he soften his take on that, he also said the reason for it is one of his guys, Anthony Black. It's unbelievable what this guy, Adam Mares, is able to do. And like right underneath your noses, people, right? Yeah. Just slipped it in there. I know what this guy's up to. No, all kidding aside, I think that's a good one. Because listen, he is a guy that I really like because he just makes a lot of winning plays. And there's nights when he just doesn't give you a whole lot offensively, but he still is a playmaker. Very good defender, great length, so it gives him versatility down there, and that's kind of their identity. So I don't think that's a bad take. I think Anthony Black a lot of times is tied to runs within specific games and then kind of winning overall. But they have turned around. Look, they had 86 points at halftime in this game, man. 86 points in Philly. And you know my biggest takeaway from this game, actually, by the way, was, and it happened in 2 different games last night. Lakers Clippers had a similar situation. Man, the squaring up with guys now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Andre Drummond and Wendell Carter Jr. Take a look at this, man. So they're shoving each other. It's about to be a high ball screen. The Magic are going to set. And Wendell Carter Jr. is kind of positioning himself at the top of the key, getting ready to go out there and set the pick. And he and Drummond, as bigs do sometimes, are kind of shoving each other a little bit, jockeying for position. And all of a sudden, Carter turns and like squares up and faces Andre Drummond like, hey, look, what's up, man? And Andre Drummond dropped down into like this Joe Frazier stance immediately. Like he got so low and he was about ready to look like he was going to throw a big left-handed hook. Of course, we know nothing's going to happen. Nobody wants to fight. Like, and it's good. It's a good thing. I'm not, a guy that's sitting here and hoping for more fights. Although, every now and then it's kind of makes it entertaining, but it's just funny because he squares up, looks like something's about to go down. And then of course, nothing happens because at the end of the day, everybody wants people to get in the middle and stop it. And they do. Suggs ends up being the one guy. He then comes in and shoves Drummond and Suggs gets ejected. The only guy that gets ejected. Same thing happened in the Lakers Clippers. Kris Dunn got into it, like kind of got tangled up with Luka as the ball was going through the basket, Lakers defensive end of the floor. Luka got his feet tangled up with Dunn and fell. And he like took exception to it. So now the ball had gone through, so the Lakers are going to take it out. And Kris Dunn is standing there with the ball in his hand, and Luka gets up and runs up on him, like kind of like from the side. Kris Dunn turns, crams the ball into Luka's chest, and then Luka just backs away and laughs at him, which is probably one of the worst things you can do actually in a fight. And then here we go. Now we're going to come in, and Jackson Hayes has to come in, and Kris Dunn does this little lungy thing at him with his fingertip, but he doesn't really hit him. And then, nothing happens. It's just funny to me in the NBA, man, the way dudes square up. Like it's about to go down. And for a fact, very rarely is anything going to happen. So it happened twice last night. And that was my most entertaining part of the Orlando game because it was a 41-point game and Orlando dropped 86 on them in the first half.
The Drummond one was hilarious because I think he was joking almost. He got down in that stance and it's almost like it was such an exaggerated stance that I think he was trolling or joking. But either way, Wendell Carter.
I don't know. I'm giving this. He's a big dude. He's a massive human being. And he got down real low, real fast and had a pretty good stance going, man. So I give him credit for that. This might, you never know. Some of these guys, like this might be part of his off-season training. A lot of these guys do different things to keep it interesting. He might do some of that because he immediately got down into a fighter's position like he was trying to, win a 10-round fight.
Yeah, but like you said, an old-timey fighter's position. I mean, he looked like a guy from 1910 or something.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Almost one of these,
Yeah, he went Jack Johnson on him all of a sudden. You're like, wow, man, this you felt like at that point the game should have been in black and white, like when he dropped down like that.
Shout out to Andre Drummond. The last game of the night, Lakers get the win 135-118. These are all cup games, by the way, so they matter at least for the NBA Cup. And the Lakers got, actually had Luka Doncic go off in the first quarter, 24 points, but they were down at the end of the first quarter. They were able to pull away. This game never really felt close, legs, but you get 25 points from LeBron. You get 31 from Austin Reeves, 43 from Luka Doncic. That's the blueprint for the Lakers. Your big three all being comfortable in the game and scoring at will.
Yeah. Well, here's what really was interesting to me. Now, I traveled yesterday out to the West Coast, so I actually didn't get to the hotel until late second quarter of that game. So I had missed, most of Luka's fireworks, and I knew right away. I put it on. I'm like, oh man, this dude's got 31 points, 32, whatever it was at halftime. I did watch the entire second half. What was interesting to me, this was a 10-point game with about 8 minutes to go, and it stayed that way for a little stretch of the fourth quarter. But at no point did the Clippers conduct themselves, particularly defensively, like they were in the game. That's the part that was kind of confusing to me. And look, I got a lot of respect for Ty Lue as a coach. I really do in this league. This was a team that did not look like they had competitive fire. Now, I will say this. That was their 7th consecutive road game. And that, guess what? They've got 5 out of the next 7 on the road. I don't know who they ticked off to get 12 out of 14 games on the road this early in the season. But, their record obviously is abysmal. This was a team that looked like, based on the way they finished the year, Kawhi was healthy. You come into the year. Now, you got older, and they're the oldest team in the league. They added some vets, but, those guys aren't going to play heavy minutes. And it looks like, okay, maybe the Clippers are going to be somewhat, relevant and in the mix there in the top 6 in the West somewhere. And defensively, they've fallen off a cliff. And you saw it last night. Zero resistance with really, I would still say the game's still very much a winnable game because it's not like the Lakers are a defensive juggernaut. So you're going to keep scoring. Can you stop them at any point? And they didn't. And it was so easy the way the Lakers did it. They were downhill whenever they wanted to. Luka or Reeves, a lot of lob dunks on the back end, kick out for open threes. It really, Lakers just having fun the entire time. And the Clippers never made them uncomfortable. And so it was kind of really glaring to me that the Clippers are in this state right now when for a team that I thought, at least on paper, the way they finished the year, had a chance to be in the mix. And they have taken a nosedive.
Well, it brings us to our 5 big questions because they are my first one that I have for you. And that is, will the Clippers right the ship? And I know it's a simple question, but we were counting on them to be at least a team that was in the play-in mix. They're 5-13 legs. They're 6 games back from the playoffs. Not the play-in, the playoffs. To get into the playoffs, they're 6 games back. Things do not look good for them. You're talking about a team that looks old. They also obviously have controversy around them. They have some health questions around them. And this is a West that you can't play with. You can't mess around in the Western Conference and just expect that late in the year you get your act together. They don't look like a very good team at all, and there's so many alarm bells going off. So are they going to be able to right the ship, at least just to get back into contention with the Minnesotas and the Portlands of the Western Conference?
I don't think so. Last year they missed half a season practically for Kawhi. But they were keeping their head above water with their defense. Their defense was exceptional. Their ball pressure was top 5 in the league, all over the floor. Great versatility there. You had Harden had a great year last year, back to an all-league caliber player. You had a great year out of Zubac. But here's the key: Norman Powell was giving them, most nights 20 plus. And had a number of nights over 30. He was the primary driving force for them offensively. And then it made things easier for Harden to do his thing. He could pick his spots a little bit more, but he didn't have to drive the entire thing offensively. Well, they lose Norman Powell. He's down in Miami doing the same thing he did for the Clippers. They thought they were going to replace a lot of that with Bradley Beal. He's out for the season. Kawhi Leonard has only played 7 out of 18 games, despite the fact that he finished the year healthy. So you thought, okay, this is his first summer he's had in a long time where he's not worried about an injury that he's recovering from at the end of the year. He's just going to get his body prepared. And man, did he look great. We did a preseason game. I think it was Denver actually in the Clippers. And Kawhi looked incredible in that game. Like, he only played the first half, but he did whatever he wanted to. And he was lean and he looked strong and powerful. And he had a couple of dunks where he turned the corner and exploded. And I'm like, okay, wow, this is what a healthy offseason looks like for Kawhi Leonard. He's coming into the year like this. And of course, right away, he's hurt again. And he's missed 11 out of 18 games. Beal's out for the year, has given them absolutely nothing. So they're not nearly as good defensively. They lost Norman Powell's production. Kawhi hasn't played. Now it's all up to James Harden every night. At this stage of his career, this is not what James Harden signed up for. So to answer your question, now the schedule's been brutal. I just mentioned it. This is 7 straight road games. They got 5 out of 7 in the next 7 on the road. So who knows where they're going to be in the next 7 games? Let's just say they only win their 2 home games. They go 2-5. You're looking at 7-18. At that point, man, you talk about digging out from under a heap. Now the schedule will get more favorable. Maybe Kawhi hits a stretch where he plays, most of a couple of months stretch. And you start to win a little bit, but are you ever really going to get back into the mix of where we thought they would be at the beginning of the year? I do not see it, particularly when the defensive metrics have completely flipped. If they had the same defensive efficiency as they had a year ago, right now they would be 3rd in the NBA in defensive efficiency. Instead, they are like 3rd from the bottom. So that's what's happened to this team, and they're not winning games with toughness and grit, and the offense isn't there. So honestly, Adam, I don't see this being something of any significance where they turn this around.
The tough part is they have no incentive to tank, and the league almost has incentive not to allow them to tank because the Clippers are owed their pick this year, which is a frightening thought because you're saying they're not going to turn around and make the playoffs, which means which means the Thunder could have a lottery chance this year if it plays out that way, which would be insane. But I think to your point about the game last night is the one that worries me about the Clippers. You never felt like they were in it. At the first quarter, okay, they come back in the first quarter, even though Luka's doing that. And I'm like, okay. But once the game started to spiral from them, I just kind of felt like they were going to lose. And that's the thing that's a bit damning for them. How connected are they? How motivated are they? Because the season just now, where they are right now, has guaranteed that their season will not be easy. They have no more margin. They have to push.
Yeah, you're right. Here's what also was weird about it last night. And sometimes, being in this industry and doing this for a living, like even when I watch games back that I was part of, because I you do that to critique your own work and you're always trying to get better. I'll watch the games I did. And sometimes there's something called a mix in production where it's a mix between the announcer's voice and the crowd volume. And when that mix is off, and I've had games where I went back and watched it, like, man, you can't hear us all that well because the crowd volume was too high. There's other games where it's Ellis. I don't know if this was part of the mix last night, but the one thing I sensed was, man, there was just like it was a Clippers-Lakers game, right? So it's like, 2 teams here in town, and there wasn't, I don't know, man, I didn't feel a lot of there was not a lot of energy in the building, and there was not a lot of energy certainly out of the Clippers. I don't know if even the crowd kind of felt like, well, the Clippers aren't even in this game. Like, despite the fact that they're within arm's reach, they never let you think, oh, we're going to string together 5 stops in a row,
right?
Like we could last year. Last year we could do those kinds of things, and then go down the other end and convert because you had Norman Powell doing his thing, Harden playing at a really high level. Now it's almost like they feel like they don't have enough offensively, and it's affected their defense. And listen, there's no other way to say it. They're the oldest team in the NBA. Now, going into the year, you knew that. But you still were going, okay, I'm going off of how they finished and what you expect. And you expected to get something out of Bradley Beal. They've gotten nothing out of him, and they won't the entire season because he's done. And now they look, because of that, you go, wow, like they're too old to really compete. And offensively, you just wonder how this is going to grind James Harden into the ground over this stretch. So let's see what happens this next 7 with predominantly road games again. But you made a great point, man. Can you imagine, like, if this team just completely falls off a cliff, right? The worse they are, the higher the pick the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to get in this in a very, very good NBA draft that we're going to have next summer.
Yeah. The league has to be fearing that one because our next question here is, what happens when J-Dub returns? They are 17-1. They have a plus 16.9 differential right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder, plus 16.9. They're not playing their guys in the fourth quarter because they're up by so much. This happened last year. It's happening even more. And if you look at their rotation, they are 11 deep when they get J-Dub back. Like, they're 10 deep right now. They'll throw some other guys out there, but they're not necessarily guys that I believe in. But I believe in their top 10 guys without J-Dub, which means when J-Dub comes back, that gives them 11 guys that I think are all play them any night. They're going to be good for you. And their starting lineup has been number one in the NBA so far this season. The three best bench players by most advanced metrics right now are all off of the bench. AJ Mitchell, Caruso, I can't even remember who the last one is coming off the bench for them, giving them that's looking good in these advanced metrics. But they're going to add J-Tub to this team that is already playing so well. So what happens to them, Legs, when he gets back?
Well, they just get better, which is like you mentioned. I don't know if people really understand, like, because we'll throw numbers out there sometimes, and it's like, are you really picking up on like how dominant this is? The highest point differential in NBA history took place last year with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, which was 12.87. And when you go and look at the team that had the second highest all time at the end of last season, Oklahoma City set the record. The team that was second was the 71-72 Lakers that won 33 games in a row. Okay, so that's how far back you had to go to see this kind of point differential. I got news for you. They're not only going to break the record this year, the distance that they're going to put between what they're doing this year and what they did last year is probably going to be insurmountable going forward for the rest of time. And I'm not exaggerating. Right now, they're just under 17 points a game, point differential. They're 17-1. They've played more road games than home games to this point in the season. So what happens when you get J-Dub? Now, here's the thing. He's not the kind of guy, because of the way they play and his game, he's not like a guy that's ISO dependent. You come back and it's like this period of breaking him in while now the offense loses its flow. That's not the way they play. They generate offense off their defense. They move the ball. It's built around Shea's ability to break defenses down. J-Dub gets that secondary kick out. Now he can operate against a closeout guy. So there's no disruption to the offense. They just get better defensively because he's another elite defender you just added to the mix. I guess to answer your question, I think that's where you're getting at. Whose minutes get cut? Is that really what you're trying to say?
I mean, that's one of the questions. Is that starting lineup looks so good and they play such a brand of basketball that they have refined that even the starting lineup, you go, okay, well, he's clearly starting. That sends somebody to the bench, but their bench has been playing great and has an identity. So it's not that it's going to get worse, Legs, because I don't think it will. But it is weird to be playing this perfect. I don't know if there's better than 17 points a game. You're winning by 17 points a game. Is there actually better than that?
You can't do it. It's you're talking about like say, so, we think of a 20-point game as a blowout. That's damn near their average. That's damn near their average night.
Yeah.
Like that's insane to me. And look, at the beginning of the year, by the way, they had to really work to win some games the very beginning of the year. And look, part of that was, you're champions now and you're coming out of the summer. It felt a lot different. Everybody's summer was different, right?
Yeah.
Than it had ever been. You're champions now. It's a young team. You worry about, man, a little bit more distracted, more time demands when you're a champion and some of the stuff you do in the off season, right? Guys got paid, right? They dumped all that money at their top three guys. So you got paid now. You don't know how that's going to affect you. And even ring night, they had to work that hard on ring night. So you're like, wow, they were still winning, but you're like, wow, they're really working. Now they're not working. Now they're just dismantling teams. And they're doing it again as they did last year on both ends of the floor. So here's what's going to happen. Everybody's minutes that are playing guard right now are going to sacrifice a little bit. And he's got the luxury. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's playing 33 minutes a game. Will that dramatically be altered? No, but maybe he's down. Maybe he ends up at 31 minutes. You get a handful of minutes cut from Cason Wallace. Alex Caruso gives up a few minutes, right? Dort. All these guys are going to probably give up a little bit so J-Dub gets his 30 minutes.
Right.
But he's got the luxury most nights of these games being like out of reach by the end of the third quarter, that he's going to make sure everybody's going to get their opportunities. And then, he'll tighten it up as you get into the second, third round of the playoffs. He'll tighten that up a little bit. But for now, he's going to give guys nights off a little bit and not worry about losing. It's like, man, you talk about a blessed life right now. Mark Daigneault, he's a great coach, great mind. What a situation they have created in Oklahoma City. If they're getting to the point, Adam, where it's almost going to pretty soon, and you're going to say, how is any team supposed to beat these guys four times in a 7-game series? We're early in the season, and I think Denver has been so interesting. Houston, I think their best is still yet to come. I don't know that anybody in the East is going to challenge any of those 3 teams in a 7-game series. So, but Oklahoma City is just so dominant. It's almost hard to believe what you're seeing in the numbers that they're generating.
Well, here's who's not getting cut out of the lineup. So Shea, Chet, Dort, Hartenstein, those guys are not getting cut out. Cason Wallace, AJ Mitchell, Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso not getting cut out. Aaron Wiggins not getting cut out. So the only guy I can see that, because again, if everybody's healthy, do you run an 11, 12-man rotation? If you're right there, we're already at 10 guys. The one guy is the other Jalen Williams, the big Jalen Williams, who I actually think can do some stuff. He can make the 3. He can rebound. He can pass from the elbows and the top of the key. He's a valuable player. It might be that he collects a DNP or he plays like 8 minutes a game just because they don't need him. And that's the thing that no other team has. There's nobody that is outside the top 10 rotation in the NBA where you're like, yeah, that guy's really good. We just don't have spots for him because we have too many guys. Only the Thunder have this. And that's what's crazy about it. Somebody's numbers get cut, like AJ Mitchell, who's been fantastic this year, Alex Caruso, Isaiah Joe. These guys somehow are going to be not needed as much as they are worthy of just because of how deep the team becomes, which is wild.
Look, and just real quick, last point on it, just so people know, like the actual raw numbers in terms of minutes. Like AJ Mitchell's been incredible, right? We've talked a lot about him. He's here now. Good. He's arrived as a player. He's not going to average 28 minutes a game for the year. He just can't.
It's incredible.
You can't. You add Jalen Williams to the mix. You can't continue to do that. I didn't even mention him. I didn't mention Isaiah Joe. This other guy playing 24 minutes a night. He probably can't do that when Jalen Williams is back. So they have such a depth at the guard and wing spot. There's like 5, 6 guys that are so good defensively that they have found minutes. Certain nights they're better offensively than others, but you're adding your second best player to the mix. So all of those guys those minutes are going to trickle down. And if you just shave a little bit off the top, nobody's being taken out of the rotation. Some guys are definitely going to suffer some nights. Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, you're right. That's probably where one place you'd look. He's averaging 18 minutes a game. That's going to be tough for him to maintain when you throw Jalen Williams into the mix, even though they don't really have bigs besides the 2 that start. It's tough for them to, play that small all the time. He still can't average 18 minutes a game. It's just the math doesn't add up. Everybody's going to shave a little off the top. And then a couple of those guards a little bit more than others. Probably I would look at Cason Wallace. AJ Mitchell's going to lose a few minutes, and Isaiah Joe. Like all 3 of those guys are going to lose some time. And then, like I said, there's some nights when, hey, maybe they don't all suit up. If he has doing that.
Real quickly, because we got to keep moving here, but I think they're a lock to win 70 games. I know that sounds insane, but if you start 17-1, it's not that hard, and they win so easy. 73, it'll be interesting because there's a big difference between 70 and 73, 74. Obviously, it's only happened one time at 73, but I think they're a lock to be within range of 70, and because they win with so many guys out, I don't think they're going to push for anything, but I think they'll naturally crawl up to 70 wins this year. Do you see that happening? Are you ready to say you think that's going to happen?
It almost feels like they can get to 70 without really trying that hard,
right,
which is scary, but you're right to then push it because you don't want to be at 73. If you're going to get to 73, you better get to 74. Right? I mean, honestly,
might as well set the record. Yeah.
Are you going to try to do this? And I'm not even saying Daignault would even consciously try. He has deflected talk about it last year. Listen, they were on pace to be in that mix. You're going to win 70. You're going to win 70. He starts getting that question in February, and he just deflected. And I really don't think they would prioritize that. But if you get up to the point where you got 70 wins and you're heading in to the last, 8 games of the season, at that point, you're going to go for 74, not 73. So you got to get to 74 or what's the point? That's the way I almost look at it. Really, to me, you might as well win 68 if you got a 5-game lead, 6-game lead, take your foot off the gas, get guys ready to go for the postseason. So I do think they have a legitimate shot at 70. And then if they're looking like they're at 70 with a couple weeks left in the season, then they're going to go for 74. And I actually think they've got a decent chance. They've got some really significant games late in the year against big-time opponents. But the thing you don't know is this. Like, for instance, March 30th, they play the Pistons at home. Who knows? I mean, maybe the Pistons have a 6-game lead at that point in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you don't know.
Right. Yeah,
they're not playing that night. So that's like you hand them a win. Or maybe somebody's right on the heels of Detroit for number 1 seed, and now they got to play that game, and it means everything. They play the Lakers twice in the last 6 games of the year. They play the Denver Nuggets in the last 6 games of the year. So there's some really interesting games late in the season, and you just don't know. But they have a legitimate shot at them. You can't deny it because how easily they're doing this. They don't even have to like press themselves to maybe have at the midpoint of the season, 41 games in, maybe they've got like 3 losses. I mean, it's highly likely, honestly.
Well, 2 questions down. Let me get to the third one for you and pivot and go to the Eastern Conference here. Will the Toronto Raptors, my Toronto Raptors, host a playoff series this year? Legs, they've won 12 of their last 13, including 8 in a row. They're 6th in offense, 7th in defense, 5th best net rating overall. Here are the teams in the top 5. Oklahoma City, Houston, Denver, Detroit. Those are like the unanimous top 4 teams in the NBA right now. Number 5 is the Toronto Raptors. And here's some tiebreaker knowledge for you. They're 3-0 already against the Cavaliers. They're 2-0 against Atlanta. So they own the tiebreaker right now over the Cavs, over the the Hawks, 2 teams that'll be vying for a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. They already have tiebreaker over. So can they keep this going and actually host a playoff round this year?
I mean, I don't see any reason why. You're certainly not going to disregard their chances. Yes, absolutely. At this point, you look at the way the top of the East is shaping up. Like Detroit, I don't think they're going anywhere. You know, they're not going to keep winning at an 88% clip. I don't expect that. But they're not going anywhere. The Detroit Pistons is going to be right there. And I think barring some sort of 1 or 2, maybe even like significant injuries, because they're very deep. They're going to be right there, fighting for the top seed in the Eastern Conference all year. They're not going anywhere. You know, Miami's been a little bit of a surprise to me, but they're starting to be less surprising because of how good their offense has been. So is Miami really going to hold on to a top 4? The Cavs have underachieved at 12-7. The Knicks are 10-6. I thought both of those teams would be better. The Orlando Magic have played a lot better here over the last 2 weeks than they did to start the year. I think they've got a shot in the top 4. So I look at it like this. Detroit's not going anywhere. So what does that mean? That means, does Miami keep this up at this rate? You know, and they maybe they have a significant injury. They've already overcome one to Tyler Hero, so maybe they can overcome that the way that they're playing. Cleveland, New York, Orlando, I think their best is coming. So if that's the case, can Toronto hold on? They're absolutely in the conversation. It'd be silly to say no, like just offhanded say, no, they can't be in the top 4. Yeah, of course they can, because I don't know what's going to happen with Cleveland, New York right now. And so, yes, give them credit, man. They're better than I thought they would be. I knew Ingram would make a difference. I didn't know that their team would be this good on both ends of the floor. It's a dramatic turnaround from what we saw a year ago.
They're so long. They're very athletic. Ingram, Barrett, Scotty Barnes. That's an incredible wing core that just gives you a lot of length, scoring, individual scoring. And then defense, they've been very good this year. They're very well coached. You add Quickly and Pirtle, who rounded out very nicely. But the thing about them is they go 9 deep with really 10 deep, but 9 deep with guys I really like. Mamu, Collimer, and Boyles, who you talked about last week, Grady Dick, Jamal Shed, and then you could throw a Chayabaji onto the list as well. That's a deep team. I think depth is winning this year, Legs. The teams that have depth and have the ability to use that depth to full court press and fly around on defense and really wear you down, it matters this year, and that's what they're doing to teams, and I don't see that going away. They're a balanced team.
There is one thing that you want to look at, and this happened with the Kings a few years ago when they ended up as a 3 seed in the Western Conference, and it surprised everybody. But when you really dove into the numbers, you're like, wow, nobody missed any games. Their top 10 guys have missed a total of 15 games. Toronto. Think about that. Now you've had teams that have already had star players miss 15 games. You've had teams where their top 2 guys combined have missed 20 plus games. So nobody's missing time. Pirtle's missed 5 games. Colin Murray Boyles has missed 5 games. That's the majority of it right there. For the most part, everybody else has been available just about every night. And look, that's a great thing. Availability is key in this league. And if you just show up with your guys every night and you've got some talent, this is what happens when you got your guys out there every night, and every night you're playing teams that are shorthanded, because all over this league, guys are hurt. They have been healthy. So let's see how that continues to play out. It might be just one of those years where you get a team that, hey, man, for the most part, we didn't have anybody go down that was significant. And if that's the case, you can hold on to something like they're doing right now.
100%. The health part is huge. I mean, Denver's seeing this right now. They have 3 of their top 10 guys down, 2 starters and 1 bench guy down, and they were deep this year. But now you're talking about you only have 7 guys you count on. So you're playing every single night. You're playing 2 guys that you don't know what you're getting from them any given night. And it's such a variable. Toronto right now not dealing with that, but also there's not a wide gap between their best player and their 7th, 8th best player. I mean, and that's part of what makes them so tough to guard on a night-to-night basis. And then, of course, Shed and Mamu right now are doing incredible. Let's take a break. During this, hop in the chat. Let me know what you think. Can the Toronto Raptors actually finish as a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, which is right now they're number 2, comfortably number 2? Let me know. We'll take a break and be back with more questions on the other side. But first, whether you're into basketball, football, hockey, or any sport in between, Underdog is the best place to get in on the action all season long. Playing Underdogs is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. If you get your picks right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. And you're picking multiple players, sometimes from the same game, sometimes from different games. So you could put together a roster of players and just pick whether you think their stats are going to be like points, rebounds, steals, or more are going to be higher or lower. What do we got this week? I always put super producer James. He's great at Underdog, so he gives me my bets, and then I steal them from him. What do you have for us tonight, James?
All right, tonight I got Russell Westbrook higher than 6.5 assists, Brandon Ingram higher than 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists total. And then this one, my lock of the night, Isaiah Stewart higher than 0.5 three-pointers made.
Oh, my, beef stew. Make it a 3. That's a fun one, though. I always like when you take the higher on the 3-point stacks. It's easy to track. You can download the app today and use the promo code ALLNBA to score $100 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code ALLNBA. Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, or Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. You can see assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, or Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 247 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you guys about Shopify. What kind of dreams did you have when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? Do you have an entrepreneurial spirit and want to start your own business? Shopify is the e-commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Shopify even powers the All City Network, our merch store, where we sell lots of merch. By the way, we have great Black Friday deals going on our All City website. If you're a fan of Denver, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, or Phoenix, you're probably going to find some great merch in there. And Shopify has you covered with website creation, product descriptions, email and social media marketing, and more. They also have AI tools designed to help you maximize sales. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up with your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity. All right, back here, segment 2, me and Tim Legler. Make sure you're subscribed. We're doing this a couple times a week, and you're not going to want to miss the episodes. Always getting Legs' takes on the NBA and talking long form with him is always great. My next question for you: do the Warriors need a shakeup? They're 10-9. They've lost 8 of 14, 22nd in offense, 9th in defense, 26th in turnover percentage. And they too, to me, Legs, look like a team that is, like you were talking about with the Clippers, they're not a team that quite has been who they need to be. And we're far enough into the season that you start to wonder, we've been swimming upstream with this roster for a little bit with the Kuminga situation. Do you think they need a shakeup?
I do think they need a shakeup from the standpoint when you look at this team, you look at them and say, there's no horizon beyond Steph Curry. Like, you look at their roster and you go, where does that come from? That guy's not on the roster. Are you going to just go into oblivion for a while after the Curry era ends? Is that what the organization plans on doing? Because
Yes.
it's not Jimmy Butler. He's 36 years old. It's not going to be him. I mean, I don't know how many years Curry's going to play. He's still playing great. Maybe he wants to play another 2-3 years. I think that's probably likely. I think he loves the game. And he's, still healthy and he looks really good. But there's nothing on the horizon beyond that. And this was a team that, I really liked them. I liked the addition of Horford. I liked them coming into the year. Jimmy Butler for a full season. Health was there. They got the Kuminga situation sorted out, although it's still murky, I think, in terms of how they view him. And is he a guy that they're going to eventually end up moving? Most likely that's probably going to be the case. Look, he's missed time. They need all their guys because they don't have a ton of offensive talent. They sort of do it. Curry, Butler, even though a lot of nights he's like pedestrian offensively, he could turn it on at different moments in the game. Then he's going to be better later in the year. But on an average regular season night, they don't have a lot of firepower offensively. They have to do it collectively. And a lot of it's based off Curry's movement. So even Kuminga missing whatever he's missed, 6 games, whatever it is, that's significant to them. That's their most talented athlete. He's a guy that, they're really counting on to give them, 15 to 20 every night. So they need all their pieces. They haven't had all their pieces. But to answer your question, I think you start to go, what do we have potentially that you could pair up to go get a guy that's a little bit younger, that's got higher upside, but it could be some risk there because maybe culturally it's not exactly what you want in terms of your identity, the way you've played all these years. There are some guys out there they could take a look at. Now, the question would be, Adam, do they have enough to interest you if you're a team? If you've got a guy that's like an all-star profile player on your roster, for whatever reason you're moving on from him, do the Warriors have enough, other than Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, do they have enough of those younger pieces to interest you to move a guy that's an all-star caliber player, but you've had enough of and you're ready to move on from? Are you intrigued by their younger talent? That's who they'd be putting up for in a trade?
And I don't even know if it's just about like getting another star player in. To me, do they have the depth for it? I mean, right now you have Al Horford out and you have Kuminga out and you play the Houston Rockets tonight. That's a big team that punishes you inside. Good luck quitting post. Like that. I think that they need more horses. And when we talk about the teams that are winning right now have a lot of depth and they have a lot of length and athleticism. Well, you're not going to have that, especially with some of the age. And when you start to get guys out, I think they need a shakeup. I do think that the plan all along was try to be good enough to the trade deadline and move on from Kuminga and see what you get. But even then, I'm still looking at it and thinking there's too many question marks on the roster that they're 10-9, they're an 8 seed. They've played more games, as many games as anyone. So the schedule's been condensed for them. It'll loosen up a little bit. But I just worry about we're only 19 games into the season. We're already talking about health, fatigue, and depth for them. I think that's a concern for a team. So will they be in the top 6? We'll find out. But I would bet now, just looking at it, that it's going to be a big battle for them to climb back out of the play-in for the rest of the year. Here's the big one I have for you, though. The last big question. How bad is tanking going to get from here? And here are your teams right now. The Hornets are 4-13. They own their pick. They're bad already, and the season already looks like it's out of reach. The Pelicans have no need to tank, but they're 3-15. The Nets are 3-14. They've been tanking since the start. Pacers are 2-15. Wizards are 2-15. And then you have the Jazz, who are likely to tank at some point at 5-12. The Kings and Grizzlies both can create an incentive for themselves if they turn off the faucet, 5-13 and 6-12. That's a lot of teams. I remember last year at this time, you're only talking about a handful of teams whose seasons fill over. When you just talk about records, all of those teams I mentioned, outside of maybe Sacramento, who could get something going, maybe Memphis, all those other teams, I think their season is over when you talk about making the play-in. The record is so bad. That's a lot of teams. So is tanking about to get really ugly when we talk about a loaded draft and a lot of teams who are already hopeless?
Well, particularly when, it's one thing to just, not want to win every night. You kind of, you know what you're really trying to do without making it that blatantly obvious. You got to tank at a level where I think for me, and look, there's going to be better players outside the top 3 in next summer's draft that are going to hit because it is a deep draft. We don't know some of those guys as much, but I think the top 3 are to me no-brainer hits. Darren Peterson is going to be a star, if not a superstar.
That's the guy I like the most.
If that guy's going to be a star to 2 superstars somewhere in there. He's got a lot of Donovan Mitchell in his game right now, and maybe that's selling him short by the time it's all said and done with him. If he takes it to that level, the guy is incredible. He's ready to go from day one. He is going to do things in this league. Debanza is a guy that's been talked about for like 3 years, potentially, and most likely was locked in, number 1 pick in the 2026 draft. Like that's what was said about him for 3 years. Now Peterson looks like maybe has supplanted him as the obvious number 1 pick, but regardless, Debanza is a guy you look at and go, that's an all-star, future all-star in the NBA. And I also think that Boozer is a guy that's a can't miss. Some people seem like they're wavering on him a little bit. I think the guy's got massive talent. He's an elite level rebounder. He's gonna affect the game as a rebounder immediately in the NBA. And I think his offensive game, he's not explosive athletically. People worry about that.
That's why.
But I think the guy's got enough skill and enough IQ that he's going to find a way around that to be able to score at the next level offensively. So you got to get into that mix to go, okay, we're so bad, we're guaranteed to one of these top 3 guys. I think tanking is going to get bad. To me, this is the greatest separation I've seen in the NBA ever. With
that's a lot of bad teams.
Basically haves and have-nots. You're talking about 7, 8 teams that have no reason to win another game. Including, by the way, listen, and I know this is tough when you went to the finals. The Indiana Pacers, they've got an identity and a toughness about them, right? And a grit and never give up attitude and all this stuff. They won all these games in improbable ways last year during that incredible run. Their best players out for the year. You won't see them at all. So you go, okay, we built all this up. Do we really want to go into that mindset? But could you imagine if the Indiana Pacers got one of those guys and you've got Halliburton coming back? Like you immediately, boom, right there, you're contending again for the Eastern Conference overnight. So, but do they do that? It doesn't sound like the conversations that are coming out of there sound like they're ready to do that. Like they still want to fight and compete and they want to figure it out. And maybe they're going to make a move and try to get a center because that has really hurt them not having Miles Turner. You know, the guys that they have there haven't really panned out at all to replace that. So maybe they're looking at a center to try to pick up. So they're not there yet, but I'm looking at them going, man, do you really have incentive to win when you're 2-15? You're not digging yourself out of that hole when you're not getting Halliburton back. So you're not winning a playoff series, no matter what. So why do you want to win at all when you have an opportunity to potentially get into the top 3? So you're right, man. 7, 8 teams are in that boat, and it's more than I think we've ever had this early in the season that you can identify.
This is actually why, and I saved this take for right here. This is actually why I think the Clippers record has a chance. They have a chance of bouncing back. Is I don't think the Mavericks, the Jazz, the Wizards, the Pacers, the Nets, the Hornets are going to lose to the Clippers, you know, in the back half of the year, because the Clippers have to win. They don't have a pick, so they might as well try to win. And those other teams are like, we can't let the Clippers and by extension the Thunder pass us in the standings. So I think they'll get a lot of tanking wins throughout the course of the year by teams that are just trying to gift it to them. But I worry tanking is going to get really ugly this year because there are some teams that are really bad that we might just be looking at the last 2 months of the season and saying, man, that team is trying everything they can to lose. Those are our questions, but I got some proclamations for you. And this first one, so these are things I feel confident enough to make a proclamation on. The first one I haven't prepped you on, but I'm kind of looking around the standings. And not just the regular standings, I'm looking around the cup standings to see how teams are doing in the NBA Cup. And my proclamation is, the NBA Cup will finally become a legacy builder this year. A legacy builder, not just a fun game that happens and, okay, maybe there's a little more excitement. Let's look at the teams who right now are likely to advance. You have the Toronto Raptors, feel-good story of the year. Orlando Magic and Detroit Pistons are both undefeated. If it's the Pistons, they're the number 1 team in the East. That would mean something. They would represent basically the East. The Milwaukee Bucks are 2-0. Well, they're already won the Cup one time, legs. It would be a big deal if they won another one. It would say like, hey, this is something that they kind of have taken seriously. The Thunder right now are undefeated. The Lakers are undefeated. Remember, LeBron already has one NBA Cup under his belt. He could have a repeat opportunity. And then Denver has a puncher's chance here. Right now, Portland has the inside track in that group, but Denver, I think, has a very good chance of advancing. So that's your four of your 5 top teams have a chance of advancing, plus the Thunder, who are runners up in the Cup one year, the Lakers who have won it, the Bucks who have won it. If LeBron got 2, I feel like it might mean something. You'd say, well, I don't know what this thing means, but LeBron did win it 2 out of 3 years. Or you would say the same thing of the Bucks, or you would just say the Thunder won it and they're the best team, so it makes sense. I think the Cup will have a little prestige and a little like legacy to it. Not a lot, but it'll be the beginning of it.
I got to disagree with that. I got to disagree with that. So
I don't want it to.
I know, but you did just. If I heard you correctly, you just, I think, said this could potentially help the legacy of a LeBron James if he wins 2 cups. I mean,
hey man,
the second greatest player in the history of the game. But he hits that.
I'm saying people might mention it.
That might put him over the top in my book. I don't know. No, the only guy on that team that could be a legacy builder for is if somehow they get to the Cup tournament and one of those 2 guys is out and Austin Reeves averages 30 in a Cup run and they win the Cup. It can help him. It's not going to help Luka. It's not going to help LeBron at all. It's not going to help anybody on the Thunder if they're able to pull it off. It won't help anybody on the Nuggets if they're able to pull it off. Listen, if Toronto makes a run through the Cup, I mean, and Brandon Ingram or Scotty Barnes is leading the way and they win the Cup, I guess, yeah, but I mean, even then you kind of know who Brandon Ingram is. All that would mean to me is the guy was healthy. Like he was healthy and he got through the Cup and he averaged 25 and they win the Cup. Scotty Barnes hasn't really been on good teams to this point. If he were able to like average a 20-point triple-double, like something like that and win the Cup, it could help a guy like that in terms of legacy. But I think most of these guys on most of these teams that have a shot at this, I don't see it. Orlando, maybe one of those guys, if they make a run through the Cup and win it or whatever, in Banchero or Wagner, one of those guys potentially, most likely Banchero, if he has a great Cup and they win it. So there are some guys I would agree with you, but some of these other guys, man, with that have already won MVPs and titles and they've been all league. No, I don't think that the Cup is a needle mover in terms of how anybody's going to view those guys.
What I like about this is this sets the baseline. This is why the proclamation is so crazy, because this is exactly what I felt about the Cup all the way up until very recently. And I'm not saying it should carry the weight of this. I'm just saying if you get a repeat winner, I think it starts to become a thing. Well, why did they keep winning that? Does it matter? So I think we'll just wait and see. We'll circle back to this here in a little bit, but I think that's setting up for it to be a thing people kind of talk about. And by the way, they'll talk about it to the way that some people talk about like all-star MVP. I see this sometimes where people are like, he's a 4-time champion, 3-time MVP, and 2-time all-star game MVP. And I'm like, well, that last part doesn't really matter, but I guess if you throw it in as a sweetener, then we'll count it. I think it'll be a little bit like that. My next one, though, is a bit of a real one. The Pistons are going to finish with the 1 seed. I've seen enough. They're 4 games up on the Cavs and the Knicks. And they just are a good team. They win with defense. They can do a lot defensively, and they have players that I trust. And I think they're going to make a big move this year. I even have a fake trade I'm going to propose to you here in a little bit. But I think that when you look at the standings, I think they're not 15-2 good, but I do think that they are up enough from the teams that realistically could chase them, and they're good enough to sustain it that they will be the East number 1 seed.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they will be. And this isn't like they came out of nowhere and now we're, saying something crazy here. Look, they had an incredible year a year ago, and we knew they were like on the rise with a really young core, particularly their best guys. But now what they've done this year, and they're not even fully healthy. They haven't even had Jaden Ivey, really. They expected to get him back. He's played a couple of games. He's about to start playing again. That's a guy that's a really explosive player. Hopefully he stays healthy. He had arthroscopic knee surgery early in the season. So hopefully that's not an issue all year for him. But regardless, even without him, look what they're doing. Duren has taken it to another level. We know what Cade Cunningham is. They still have this defensive mentality and mindset. The chemistry's there. Duncan Robinson's been a great fit because they added shooting last year that really helped them. this is on another level in terms of like just the threat and his activity level and the way you have to shift to that side of the floor. It's opened things up even more for them offensively. And really, so there's two things go into this question, Adam. One is, do you believe in them? Which I think it sounds like we both do.
Yep.
The other thing is the other team's trying to catch them.
Yeah, and
that's
I don't
really
quite
the
believe
other part of the component. And right now, there's a lot of questions around these teams, especially Cleveland and New York, who I thought would be 1-2 in the East. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that now based on what I've seen. And these other teams like Toronto and Miami, right, they've been a little bit surprising to us. I don't know that they're going to be on a level with the Detroit Pistons. And then the other team out there is Orlando, which you're talking about making up a lot of ground, man, to catch him. And I don't think Detroit's going to slow down that much. They're not going to win at this rate, but they're not going to be 30-4 at the midway point of the season. I mean, or 34 games in. I don't believe that, but I don't know that anybody's going to catch them. I think you might be right, man. The Detroit Pistons might, host every home court series as long as they stay alive. That's pretty incredible.
And you've brought this point up a lot, but it's not just the start they've got to this year. It's the finish they had. And if you combine those things, you're like, hey, this is actually a trend that extends more than just 20 games. This is a trend that's been going on with them for a while. So I think, I think that's going to happen. All right. Here's one for you. At least one of the following players will be traded this year. I actually don't fully believe this one, but I kind of just thought it was fun anyway. Ja Morant, LaMelo Ball, or Trae Young. All of those are players whose teams might be moving in a different direction, might make sense for them to move in a different direction. There's excitement with the team that does not involve them or include them. And I think one of them gets traded this year. And I had a question for you. They did the expansion Seattle Supersonics and they named you GM and head coach. You're everything over there. And you had to pick one of those guys for your expansion team. Which one would you take?
Oh, my goodness.
Ja Morant, LaMelo Ball, or Trae Young?
Man. Man, I probably would go with LaMelo because of the age difference. But I don't know that he's necessarily a winner yet. It's hard to know. And he misses a lot of time. Maybe maybe it should be Trae Young at the end of the day. The guy has been on good teams and he has been the driving force and he's available most nights. Ja Morant would be number 3 on that list for me. Yeah, he would be number 3 on the list for me for sure. LaMelo Ball, I love his talent. He's super entertaining. I think I'd like to see him on a team that can compete to see. I might be like, hey man, this dude, that's all he needed was to be in a situation where like he feels like he got a chance every night. And you might see the best we've seen out of him because he does make guys better with his passing. But he can also, at some nights, also be tough to play with because he's shoot first guy. He's unavailable a lot. So maybe it should be Trae Young, man. Maybe just based on the career he's had, we should give him more respect and say, you know what, it's Trae Young. But man, that LaMelo has got so much talent and he's so young. I kind of feel like maybe it should be him.
I think it's LaMelo for me, but all of them kind of, put you in knots because you just don't know. I think Ja clearly lasts for me. I just don't know what redeeming qualities there are going forward there. It's just way too much risk.
Well, I will say this, and I will say this, Adam, when you talk about your proclamation was at least one of those guys will get traded. I mean, I look at the situation in Memphis with Ja Morant, and he's hurt again with a calf strain. He has missed so many games in his career in Memphis. And I think we've already seen the best of Ja Morant. And that's incredible because the guy's 26 years old. Most guys get into their prime 25 to 31. I think we've already seen the best of Ja Morant because I don't think he plays with the same reckless abandon he used to because he's taken too many falls. He gets hit while he's in the air. He doesn't weigh a lot. It's cost him time. And every time he goes up, you hold your breath. So he doesn't play the same way that he did. He doesn't have those highlight reels, 2 or 3 a night that you're going, oh my God, you can't believe the explosiveness. He's taken his foot off the gas there a little bit. So he's, to me, not nearly as effective. And on top of it, I don't think he can stand his coach. I don't know that he respects Thomas Isla. No, seriously. I don't know if he respects him. I don't know if he knows who Thomas Isla was before he got there. And for a guy like Ja Morant, that kind of like matters. Like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Is he a former player that probably would impact Ja Morant? Like that kind of stuff. So I think I think Ja Morant doesn't have a great connection to him. So if you want to look at one of those three guys that maybe they're at that point, it would be Ja. But I also think, man, that might be a little bit buyer beware around the league. So I don't know how hard that would be to pull off trading a guy like Ja Morant. I think the other two guys, I think those franchises still, I think, are kind of invested in both of them. I think with Ja, it's very tenuous. So he would be the most likely to try to be moved. I just don't think it'd be that easy.
Well, I don't think if one of them is traded, it's going to shake up the league. But my next prediction is that a major trade will shake up the league this season. A major trade will happen that will affect how we look at the playoff race. And here's the thing. There's a lot of teams that are ripe for trades. I mean, Sacramento is open for business. They've made that known. The Dallas Mavericks are sitting there with Anthony Davis. What do? Are they trying to pivot away? New Orleans is open for business. Houston, I still maintain, as good as they are, they have all this draft capital and they have a chance to win it this year. Do something to strengthen your roster. I still think they should make a trade. And then Detroit. And so I put together a couple trades for you, Legs, and we can go quickly on these, but I put together a couple trades that I'm really curious if you like these. Are you ready for these?
Yeah, let's go, man.
The Detroit Pistons get Michael Porter Jr., and the Brooklyn Nets get Tobias Harris, Paul Reed, and one first. They have a bunch of firsts that they can part with. I mean, at this point, you're trying to slow play it. Don't slow play it. You're the 1 seed. You can get rid of any of your firsts in the upcoming seasons, and they have 2 of them this year. If for Brooklyn, you got a first to take on Michael Porter. You rehabbed his value and you trade him for a first. You essentially got 2 firsts just for getting Michael Porter Jr. That's great asset management. And then for the Pistons, Tobias Harris is good. He's been a good leader, vet, all these things. Michael Porter's better. He's going to space the floor better. He's proven he can score for you. He's an elite shooter for Cade. I actually like that as a cheap option for them to strengthen their roster, strengthen their scoring without really affecting anything else. What do you think?
Well, the only problem with that from Brooklyn's perspective is, so you're going to get the Pistons pick. I mean, that's going to be a really low pick.
But you could put it out. Well, they have 2 picks this year. One of them is owed to them. I can't remember. I think it's from Portland, perhaps. But you could also put it out. Maybe this is a pick that you say, hey, we have a bunch of young guys. Let's see where the Pistons are at in 2029, 2030.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say from the Pistons' perspective on something like that. Here's one thing about Michael Porter Jr. I think he proved this. And I know there was times they were probably frustrated with him in Denver, but he did prove this. On a really good team that's competing every night, that's playing for something, Michael Porter Jr. can be a really good player a lot of nights for you. In this situation, going to Brooklyn, not trying to win, with drafting 5 guys in the first round, not moving any of a bunch of guards, and he's in a situation where you're not expected to win. No, Michael Porter Jr. is going to be looked at in a totally different light. He's not this guy. In a lot of ways, Mikal Bridges kind of fell into that trap in Brooklyn too. Like, right. This guy was spotting up, shooting corner threes on a good team in Phoenix, defending. I love this guy. Now he goes to Brooklyn. Okay, can you now go be the guy that kind of is the main guy offensively and lead us anywhere? And you look at him different. Now he goes to New York and he revives himself, playing for something. I'm not the most important offensive player. My defense is appreciated again. I think Michael Porter Jr. is kind of one of those guys. In a good setting, I still think he's got a lot to offer. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. But I do think there is a casualness about him and a sort of a laissez-faire, right, attitude about him a little bit that I don't know if that fits with what they are trying to portray in Detroit as this alley fight team defensively. They've got great chemistry offensively, a clear alpha, and then everybody else kind of understands their role in lane. And now you bring in another guy that if he's not getting shots is not going to play as hard defensively. And now what have you done to yourself if you're Detroit? So I hear you from a talent perspective. There's no doubt. And I do think he can contribute to a winning team. I don't know if that makes sense for the Pistons with what they already have, the success they're having, and the mentality that they approach every night with. That's where Michael Porter Jr. might be a little bit of an odd fit.
I like it, and I just think he adds some more offense to them, but your point does stand that they do have an identity, and he would change that. You just have to wonder if it helps or hurts. I think it would help their offense. Let me know in the comments, though. I'm very curious. I have one more for you here. The Rockets, to me, Reed Shepherd's been great. And I think that he's going to be a real player for them. I still look at it and say, you're good enough. Don't leave anything on the table. There's no point in leaving a 3-year, 4-year window open when you have all these assets. So for me, the Rockets trade Fred VanVleet, Josh Okogie, and the 2027 first via Phoenix to the Sacramento Kings, and you get Malik Monk and Keon Ellis. This is a scoring. You replace Okogie with Keon Ellis, who I like as much or better anyway. And then you also add Malik Monk as a guy that can just give you extra scoring and point guard play that you need. So he gives you what Reed Shepherd gives you. So you have another guy behind him doing that. You get 2 players for one. Okogie goes out. You get 2 playable players. And all it cost you was one of your many firsts that you're holding on to. What are you holding on to those for? Your window is now. Make your roster 10 deep for the playoffs.
Yeah, you got a couple years to cash out with Kevin Durant, right? You got to max this out while you have Durant. And so I agree. And that's why we said all along when VanVleet went down, the whole thing was, well, let's see what happens with Reed Shepherd. And Reed Shepherd's really, really give him credit, man, because he has answered the call and he's playing great for them right now. But still, to me, what you have to do and who you have to overcome. Oklahoma City clearly is the gold standard, might be unbeatable. But then you got Denver also, who I think has now leapfrogged you.
Yep.
So now you've got a couple of teams you've got to get past. So you can't have enough offensive talent and depth to go up against those teams. And you're right. If you've got these assets, go ahead, do everything you can to give Kevin Durant the team that he has to have around him to try to match up with teams like Oklahoma City, where you're going to need scoring all over the floor. You're going to have more answers against Oklahoma City in particular than any other team in the league because of what they could do to you defensively. So I like that one. I give you credit too. You put a lot of thought into this. You did a deep dive on getting very specific here. And I like that a lot.
I have one last one James wants me to do here. I was going to skip it, but I'm looking at Anthony Davis trades, and I just don't know what Anthony Davis's value is right now. Like, how much can you get back from him realistically? He's from Chicago, and so I like Chicago getting Anthony Davis. What do they do right now? They lose Vucevic, who's an expiring contract. It makes the contracts work. You have to eat Patrick Williams' contract if you're Dallas. And then the draft capital. I mean, Chicago has enough draft capital they could make that. If you're Dallas and you're truly hitting the reset around some of your young players, namely Cooper Flagg, if you're truly hitting the reset, you need first in the future. Well, Chicago has a lot. And if I'm betting on future first to be valuable, Chicago's a good one. So the draft capital, they can make anything work. But if you gave Josh Giddey, Bazelis, Kobe White, Anthony Davis, does that make them pretty interesting?
Definitely. I just did a segment with the guys in Chicago talking about this exact thing. Their interior defense is brutal. Anthony Davis would give them a whole nother level of seriousness. Look, I know there's questions about Anthony Davis, so you don't want to sit there and get caught up in the fact you understand the guy's hurt a lot, and we get it, man. But when the guy does play, he's an absolute difference maker. He's a monster talent on both ends. And that would give them a totally different believability factor in Chicago than what they have now, which is like, I like watching them, but I said to the guys in Chicago, how much more is there for anyone on their roster than what you're seeing right now besides Bazelis? Like, how much more? There really isn't. So it's like, yeah, it's a great story. These guys have great chemistry. Giddey's been incredible since he's been there. Giddey's not going to all this. Oh, there's a whole nother level for Josh Giddey. No, there's not. Kobe White too. You kind of know exactly what that looks like. And it's not going to be good enough in the Eastern Conference. So Anthony Davis would give you a totally different believability. Now, here's the thing I would say about that from Dallas's perspective. You talk about salt in the wounds of Nico Harris. I mean, if you do that, you're basically given that trade like that took place, no chance whatsoever to come to fruition.
I mean,
that vision made sense.
What are we doing, though? Yeah, but what are we doing? We already know the answer to this. But really need it.
Well, you know how I feel about it. Come on, but I agree with that. But at the same time, Anthony Davis is not like out for the year. Yeah. You're gonna get Kyrie back for a good number of games in the second half of the season, and you got the number 1 pick in the draft. Who, he's been very good by all standards for any rookie. He's been very good, and he's going to get better and better. And I think he's going to be a star in Cooper Flagg. So that is kind of waiting on you this year. So I don't know, man. I don't know if you pushed that button yet if you're Dallas.
Well, not yet, but at some point, and maybe at the deadline, they make that move. And like I said, they have picks, but the Chicago Bulls have picks they could give up if they feel like that makes them good enough. My last proclamation for you, and we got to get out of here, but my last proclamation for you is that the MVP vote this year is going to be very fascinating because in most years, there's two guys and it's like 70-30, 70% one guy, 30% the other. Nobody else receives votes. I think at least 3 players this year, if not 4, possibly even 5, are going to receive first place votes. I think Shea, Jokic, and Luka are a lock that they will receive first place votes. And I think that no player will win more than 50% of the total first place votes, which means we'll have a true, competition for it. And the reason I think that is that every year there's narratives that expire. So we go to the other one. Well, it's team record this year, or look at the advanced metrics. Look at this, look at that, look at the scoring. I think this year the Thunder are going to have a great record. Well, they had a great record last year, and that was the deciding factor. I don't know if it'll be a deciding factor again. Jokic is averaging a triple-double with efficiency. Well, he's done that before. It was a deciding factor. Luka's leading the league in scoring while also almost averaging a triple-double, and his team is likely to be top 4. All 3 of those guys are going to have cases to be made, and some of the things against them will already be old or expired. So I think all 3 get a first-place vote. And who knows? Maybe Giannis, maybe Cade get a first place vote as well.
I think that's a very fair point. And I think, look, here's the situation that is going to be tough for voters, and I'm one of them. And I voted for Jokic last year for my MVP. Shea second. Shea ended up winning the award. They both were deserving. I had no problem with that whatsoever. I just make a logical argument. I feel like I made my argument. That's all you have to do. Just come with your facts, state your case. Either guy could have won it. I was going to be good with it either way. My point is, though, if Shea won it a year ago and he has almost identical numbers and they win 73 games, 74 games, whatever it may be, I almost feel like if you voted for him a year ago, what really is significantly different with their team other than A.J. Mitchell's emergence? How do you not automatically vote for him again?
Well, this is the thing with Jokic, though. His numbers have improved every single year for the last 5 years, including this year, and yet he wasn't winning it. I just think it's a narrative award. And so I think people will – because I agree with you. He's not worse. Shea isn't worse than last year, but neither is Luka, neither is Jokic. And I just think it swings. That's a narrative-based award, and everybody will have a different narrative they can grasp onto this year.
Here's what's got to happen for Jokic, I think, and it's crazy to say because of this season he's having. It's historic. That's why I voted for him last year, right? And I still think he's the best player in the NBA. But, and I'm not saying I don't know who I'm going to vote for now. It's too early. But I voted that way last year. Here's what I think would have to happen for him to sway some of those voters that voted for Shea last year, assuming both of these guys stay healthy and put up the numbers they're putting up now for the rest of the season. The gap in the wins has to narrow for Jokic. That was, to me, the biggest deciding factor for a lot of voters last year was how many more games did they win? 18, right?
Yeah.
They won 18 more games than Denver. That, for anybody
they're going to win 18 more again.
Anybody that was on the fence, that's ultimately what tipped it that way. So now look, last year Denver won 50. They're on pace to win more than 50. They've got to be closer probably to that 60 range, assuming Oklahoma City's upper 60s, pushing 70, maybe get 70. Look, if they break the record or tie or break the record, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is going to win the MVP. I'm telling you right now, he's going to win the MVP. So if they're upper 60s and Denver can get to 60, both guys have same numbers as they have now and similar to actually last year, then Jokic might be able to steal enough of those Shea votes to possibly win another MVP. But I do agree with you in this regard. Luka's going to get first place votes if he stays healthy. The Lakers continue to win. I think, Cade Cunningham, look, if they had the number 1 seed and they win 60 games.
Yeah, and maybe he gets a vote.
And he's got these numbers, somebody's going to vote for him. Somebody will. And Giannis, look, they're sub 500 right now.
Yeah, it's tough.
If they're a 500 team, I don't think Giannis is getting any first place votes. But we'll see what the rest of the year looks like for them.
Well, real quickly as we get out of here, let's check on the fan duels of the night presented by FanDuel. Download the app and use the code ALLNBA to receive 300 of bonus bets when you sign up and deposit $5. Real quick, James, what do we got going on? Legs, you're on the call tonight. You are in the Bay, Rockets Warriors.
We got Rockets Warriors triple header tonight on ESPN, Thanksgiving Eve. And then I got to catch a red eye back to make it back in time for Thanksgiving. But we got Rockets Warriors tonight, unfortunately, no Kevin Durant. So that's kind of a bummer, because when I saw the game and you're thinking, oh man, it's rough, red eye for Thanksgiving. But at the same time, like, but we get a great game. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, you can't beat it. No Durant tonight. And Warriors really, really need this game. The Rockets have been really good when guys have been out, though. So I expect a great game, man. We're the last game of the night on ESPN. Hopefully a lot of people watching, home, either out celebrating with friends watching the game, or home watching the game, getting ready for Thanksgiving. We will be the last game of the night, and I think we have a chance to have a great game.
A lot of games tonight, too, so you're probably going to have some pretty good ones somewhere in there. All right, 2 super chats to get to. James, what do you have for us? D-Rock says, the Nets have 2, maybe 3 pieces for sale. MPJ, we talked about. Claxton and Cam Thomas. MPJ to Detroit, we talked about that one, too. Claxton to LA or Boston. Thomas to Milwaukee, expiring contract and 6 picks. Look, man, this is the thing. The Nets want to lose, and those guys are out the door anyway. Cam Thomas in particular. MPJ has an expiration. Claxton. So, yes, I think all 3 of those guys could help a team, and I expect them to be at least discussed in trades come the deadline.
Going to be all sorts of dudes available this year at the trading deadline, based on the way this league is breaking down and the number of teams that don't have a real incentive to win at all. So I think the trading deadline is going to be fascinating.
We got one more here. Daniel says, is OKC the first team ever to have 8 top 100 players? Shea, J-Dub, Chet, iHeart, Caruso, Dort, Wallace, AJ, and Clippers need to start winning. That is the thing, man. These guys are good collectively. That's what makes them so good, but they're also so good individually. That's a lot of players that can do things that are separate from the team. Just defend one-on-one or score, get into the paint, shoot, whatever it is. They're just good, man. Sam
well, I mean, I will say this. I mean, and we don't have time right now. We could dive into another day, but I'm not sure I'd put all 8 of those guys in the top 100 in the league either. So
who you taking out? Bring it back up. Hold up. Who would you take out? Kaysen Wallace?
You think Lou Dort's a top 100 player in the NBA?
I think he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA.
Yeah, but is he a top 100 player in the NBA?
Yeah, I think so. He's just too good defensively.
That's like 3.3 guys per team.
I know, but Dort would start on most teams.
I mean, Kaysen Wallace, a top 100 player in the NBA. Well, I'm not taking anything away from these guys. Like, they're amazing, and they're in the perfect situation where they are to win, because a lot of nights their offense isn't needed for them to win, and they're so appreciated for their defense, and they're 2 of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA. I'm just saying, when you start talking about top 100 guys, like 100 players, I mean, you got to incorporate the totality of their game, and some guys are in tough situations, man, right now, that they don't have enough around them to win. That's all I'm saying. I mean, we could have that debate another day. I'm not trying to diminish those guys in any way, because they're champions and they're critical of what Oklahoma City does, and they fit perfectly.
Well, I've watched Lou Dort guard a lot of top 100 players, and they didn't look like top 100 players when he was guarding them. And I seen him make shots in an elimination game.
Here's what I want to see. I want to see one of those videos that you put up several weeks ago of you schooling that dude in that gym. I want to see.
Oh, he wouldn't guard me. Come on, he wouldn't be able to guard me, Legs. I didn't say he can guard me.
Not with that little jab step spin that you put on that dude. He's still looking for him. Whoever that guy was.
All right, Legs. I hope you have a great holiday, man. Enjoy being in the Bay tonight for that game. And everybody, we appreciate you watching. I'm going to be with Mark Stein on Friday. Excited for that one, so stay locked to the channel. But hit that like button. We'll see you then.
Silly like the mayor.